Welcome to On the Hill Podcast.
All right, and we're back.
Back on the hill.
Back on the hill, man. Back on the hill. And today we've got to me, a really special guest. I mean, I'm honored, man. And Colonel Dennis Rohler.
Hey, thanks. I am truly honored to be here. And I know it's been a long time coming. We've been working on getting here for a while now.
We have.
Yeah.
So I know you kind of want to start with a disclaimer, I think.
Yeah, so my standard disclaimer, and if any of my folks out there are listening, they're probably rolling their eyes right now, but whenever I start a mentoring session or a career progression type conversation, I always start with this disclaimer, like anything I say today is the viewpoints of Dennis Rohler only. Like, I don't represent, even though I am an officer in the National Guard, I don't represent the National Guard in what I'm saying. I represent myself in my life experiences, and although I have plenty of books, resources, things that I've read that have, got me to who I am today, anything that I say, I own 100%. So
Gotcha.
I don't represent anybody else during this conversation. And if you disagree with anything I say, that's great. And I welcome the conversation. So,
oh, dang.
Thanks.
I know you said you want to, that's right. I forgot about that. You want to challenge me on a political thing. But
no, I don't want to challenge you on anything political whatsoever.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm
going to
kidding.
talk politics.
No, I know. It's two rules, right? Don't talk religion or politics. So by that disclaimer, does that mean we're safe from the Secret Service and these other groups?
I would hope so.
Hunting us down.
I would hope
Eric
so.
and I.
I don't know. Yeah.
Because you got connections, bro. We're just like two jacklegs, man, living out here in the hills, man, up on Happy Hill.
I don't know anything. I don't know about that.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, this is, I guess I'll kind of start with how we met, and then we'll just kind of go down from there. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
So, we met down at Petersburg Police Department. I started there in 1995, and you were already there, so.
Yeah, I joined Petersburg PD in 91.
Dang, 4 years. Yeah, and I got there. I mean, you were by that time, and by most standards, it's 3 to 5 years to learn a career, but you'd already been there, 4 years? So I looked up to you then, and as a good source of somebody you could count on that was fair, intelligent, not out to hurt anybody, just an all around good cop. I think you were on the bike squad back then.
Yeah, so I did do the bike squad for a while. It was probably one of the
awesome.
greatest jobs I had. Did the CRT team. I think we were together on that for a while.
Yes, sir.
And then patrol. So 8 total years, 91 to 99.
Wow. So during that time, you were in the Army National Guard then?
Army National Guard, yeah. Yeah.
So then I guess when you left, and you said 99, right?
That's right.
And you went full-time in the Guard?
I did, yeah.
But you were enlisted then, right?
I was. So, yeah, I was an E4 in the Guard. And right when I left Petersburg to join the National Guard full-time in what they call the AGR program, Active Guard Reserve Program, I was an E5 sergeant.
Wow. So and that was actually out of Petersburg, wasn't it? What was that unit? I can't think of the...
Yeah, so the Armory was in Petersburg. It was 2nd Battalion, 111th Field Artillery was what the unit was at that time.
Is it still there or no?
No, the Armory's there, but it's a headquarters of an engineer battalion now.
Wow.
That's actually one of the battalions in the brigade that I command now.
Right. So, I mean, how does somebody go from, I don't know how much detail you want to go in, but to me, it's amazing that this is what, and we reconnected, but we'll go over that in a minute. But from an E4 to a colonel almost sounds like, that just almost seems unbelievable.
Yeah, so take it back even further than that. So when I initially entered the military, right out of high school, I was an E1. And it was a situation where I lived with my parents and we were in Germany. And my dad gave me that lecture, like, you're getting out of this house.
Right.
You need to determine which branch of the military that you're going into, because you're not going to go to college and fail out. Dang. You just need to pick a branch of the military and join. And so I initially went in the Air Force active duty right out of high school. So the first time I came back to the United States from Germany since the 9th grade, I went to basic training. So that was my welcome back to the United States, was Air Force basic training.
So is there only one, was it Lackland Air Force Base?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Huh.
Where is that?
In Texas.
Texas.
Yeah, San Antonio.
So so how long, so you were in the Air Force, and I think we talked about this some off camera, but over the couple of weeks that we've been getting together, almost a month now. But how long were you in the Air Force, and then what was your duties then, your MOS?
Yeah, well, so they call it AFSC in the Air Force, but I was in for 4 years, and I was what they call a airfield management specialist. So worked the flight plans, took care of the airfield conditions, make sure everything was straight so the aircraft could operate on the ground safely. And I was stationed up in Spokane, Washington for about 2.5 years, and then I went to Panama for a year and a half before I got out of the Air Force.
So you grew up a military brat, so I mean you knew what to expect from the military life.
Yeah, that's right.
So it wasn't no shock to you, I guess.
No.
Were both your parents military? Or
no, my dad was. So my dad was the standard 19-year-old second lieutenant in Vietnam, 1968. He went to Vietnam. I was born while he was gone to Vietnam.
Wow.
My mom's dad was actually stationed in Panama. So my parents got married at 19. My mom got pregnant. My dad went to Vietnam, and my mom went down to Panama to live with her parents, and that's where I was born while he was in Vietnam.
Oh, wow. So he was in the Army or Air Force?
Yeah, he was in the Army. Yep, he did 20 years, retired as lieutenant colonel.
Wow. So what is that like? You get to take a couple jabs at him? Hey, I'm a colonel, and you're...
Yeah, no, I don't jab at my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too much respect there.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, it's off the cuff, like just kind of fun. Yeah. I got you. Yeah, I understand. But, you know, I saw a video the other day on social media where I think it was a Marine Corps female, and her grandfather was like, he may have been either Korean or World War II vet, and he saluted his granddaughter.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
He's like,
I saw
permission
that
to
too.
speak, and stuff. That was such a great honor for him. So, yeah, my stepdad was in the military, and both my grandparents and stuff. Both my grandfathers served in World War II and stuff, but none of my immediate brothers or anything were in the military. So,
Yeah.
but I still understand the military and much respect for it. So,
your dad and I have something in common, working full-time for the National Guard for our career as well.
yeah, he was in the Air National Guard. Yeah, and he you know, he stayed enlisted, but he ended up being a Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, E9.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? When he retired, yeah. Then they moved the whole base down from Richmond to Langley. So that base, the tactical wing still exists, but doesn't exist in Richmond. All right, so then you get out, and what was your interest in how did you end up in Petersburg or back in Virginia?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, right? We could go multiple different places on this thing, but the reality is I came to Virginia because that's where my dad retired out of.
Okay.
Fort Lee.
A lot of people stay here.
Greg Adams. Yeah, they stayed here for a while. And so when I got out of the Air Force, I thought what I would end up doing was I would come back, live with them, and then my plan was I was going to go to Virginia State, where you ended up going. I was going to go to Virginia State, go to ROTC. I thought I would get commissioned there. That plan didn't exactly work out because that plan relied on me living with my parents. Well, when I moved back with them after being gone for 4 years, that didn't last for very long.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
And I applied in Petersburg to the police department probably for all the wrong reasons. If you want to think about why should somebody want to become a police officer,
Right.
it was probably all the wrong reasons.
Well, I mean, how old were you then? Like 22?
22.
Yeah. So at 22, we don't really have any idea what we're doing. So we're just kind of bumping along.
So at 22, I thought being a police officer would be cool. That was number one.
Yeah.
Right? Because you grow up watching all these shows like Chips or even Barney Miller for the funny side of it, right? So I thought all of that would be really cool. And that's the reason that I wanted to be a police officer, because I thought it would be cool. In hindsight, today you recognize that's not the reason why you should become a police officer.
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of talked about that a little bit, like particularly at that age, what 22-year-old has the knowledge to be a police officer, but on the same token, what 18-year-old has the knowledge to be a soldier.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's pretty tough, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, for whatever you thought you lacked, I remember being this young officer. I think I was a little older, maybe 24 when I started, but of course you were older. But I mean, I knew I was an imposter, but I mean, I remember being you were somebody I could look up to and trust with what to do and your opinion and things. But I think one of the memories I had that was one of the funniest was, I mean, you were squared away then, at least you seemed like, I mean, 'cause I know you were kind of hard on yourself when you said, what did you know to be a police officer at that age, but somebody had used that old car you had, that Caprice. It was like the old Batmobile thing. Like, these things were huge, man. Well, I don't think it was a Caprice. Yeah, it came from the state police, but somebody had used your car overnight and left the window down. And you were, I've never seen you mad, but you were mad then. And you were, see, in that time, there was either you were part of the clique or not, and you were in.
No, I never felt like I was in.
Yeah,
I have never felt like I'm in any clique anywhere.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, I'm not saying that you voluntarily got into the clique. What I'm saying is they either liked you or they didn't. How about that? Is that better?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the administration liked Rhodey and all them guys liked him, and Seidel and stuff, and Kelleher and all those. This is some old names of the guys. So the fact that you were upset about your car, they were really serious about finding out who used it the night before, and it was like hell to pay. If somebody had done it, no, it won't me. Okay, thank God. But if it had happened to me, it'd been like, tough it up, man, just sitting there and get wet. But
see, I don't have any recollection of that. But I'll also tell you that
well, you got a lot of memories in between.
And I think this has to do with growing up in the military and moving around so much throughout my life and really being an introvert. But I don't ever really feel part of much. You know what I'm like?
Right.
When you perceive a group of individuals together, I usually feel as if I'm on the outside
looking in.
Regardless of how long that I've been there. Even today in the Guard, I don't know that I say that I'm part of maybe the establishment or whatever you want to call it. I am a senior leader in the Virginia Army National Guard, but my personality somewhat keeps me from feeling like I am fully, not that I'm not part of the organization. It maybe it's a little bit hard to explain because to you from the outside, you saw something that you saw me very comfortable, I guess, in that organization. To me, I don't generally feel that way. It's just part of my personality.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, two things. One, so what you're talking about is that, well, first, let me just jump back a little bit. So we had lost connection. So when you left the PD, hadn't seen you again for, I've been close to 20 years, somewhere around that time frame. And I was working at the academy at the time. I'm going to time out. You think that mic's good for him, or should we move it a little bit?
Yeah, that's good.
That better?
I don't make sure you can see better. Yeah, you might be able to turn it to get more comfortable. There you go.
Let me raise it up a little bit.
You can pull it totally
Technical problems. So anyway, I just want you to be comfortable, that's all, and make sure we can hear your voice. But so anyway, I was the class coordinator for, I guess, for the 99th. That's what I spoke to.
Yeah,
and I got in contact with a guy that used to work with us in Petersburg, Earl Crawford. And I was like, hey, you know how to get a hold of Rohler? And, I mean, he was on it. Colonel Rohler, sorry. And, I mean, I'm serious about that. Yeah, so he was able to get in contact with me, and I said, hey, man, you mind being the keynote speaker at our graduation? And then you came in, and that's what I was like, this is the same dude. So when I saw you back in the day, I mean, so imagine being a young cop looking at a senior officer, you know, even though you had 4 years, but that was a senior officer in Petersburg.
Right.
So I was like, he's already up here. I'm just like rookie guy.
Yeah.
Then when I see him again, he's a colonel in the Air National Guard, or Army National Guard. I'm just like the same motif, man, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, and I was honored that you came, but not only did you come do the keynote speaker or the graduation speaker, you were he came, met with the class at least 3 or 4 times, ate lunch with the recruits. I mean, it was a great experience for them.
Yeah, I said it a number of times, and I don't know if you'll ever know how much that meant to me. I said it to you and I said it to the class, but it meant a lot to me to be able to come back. And when you invited me and said, or asked me to be the speaker, I thought in my head over and over again at the number of ceremonies I've been to that had a speaker, and in the end, I won't say it wasn't memorable, but you didn't take away a lot from the occasion. And letting me come and spend, and it was 4 separate occasions I got to spend with the class, made it incredibly memorable to me. But I was able to make a connection, and I think when I actually spoke at the graduation, we were able to talk about topics that I had talked to the class on multiple times while I was there, and I hope it had some level of impact.
No, yeah, because I you know, people that listen to the podcast, a lot of them are, you know, previous recruits or officers. So when people reach out like, what's the next episode, and I'll say you were coming on that class in particular, and people that were there. So I mean, they were excited about it.
Yeah.
So you were able to get one-on-one with them before the actual graduation?
Yeah, it was great because the first day I showed up, they were doing defensive tactics, and so they were in there beating the crap out of each other. And during breaks, I would just, you know, kind of individually engage folks. And then when they went to lunch, there was the lunch bunch that hung out at the academy that didn't go anywhere. And we sat in there, and it's generally the same thing when I go out and talk to soldiers. I individually engage folks and try to understand who they are, where they come from, ask them questions about themselves. And I got to know, I can picture every single one of the individuals in that class. And when I got up to speak that day, it meant something to me on a personal level to be able to speak to them at the graduation.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other part that added, the personal touch to it and probably pressure for you was you were also standing in front of people that you had worked with back in law enforcement 20 years previous.
Yeah, that was the other piece of it.
So he had guys like the chief in Colonial Heights now, Billy Onspach. He came out in my class, and we both started hired in 94, started in 95, same class. But now he was the chief of police in Colonial Heights. Yeah,
oh, wow.
That's what he always wanted to be, by the way.
Yeah, Billy.
Yeah. He was. Anyway, I'll go with that in a minute. But yeah, so you not only did you have the pressure of speaking in front of the class that you had helped mentor, and then you had to stand in front of people you knew.
Yeah, well, and then some chiefs of police that were in there that I didn't know. That
that's
obviously
true.
To me, and imposter syndrome. You guys talk a lot about that, and that's obviously very real. But to me, when I see a chief of police who's wearing the exact same rank that I do, I still see them as a very junior police officer from back in the day. Like, it's intimidating to me, although we stand there basically kind of at the same rank.
Same ranks, yeah. Yeah, but that kind of goes to what you were saying a minute ago about you don't necessarily, even though you're a colonel, and then you're amongst these people of equal rank, higher or less, you don't necessarily fit into the clique. But we were eating. Shelly and I were out eating the other night, and I think it was Wednesday night. And there was a girl there, the waitress, and we see her all the time. And somehow it came up. I said, "Look like y'all got some new staff here." And she said, "Yeah, we do, but it's a big turnover." But she goes, "I've been here for 8 years. I can't get out of it." And I'm like, "So I'm like, what is it you want to do?" And she said, "Well, I actually got an MBA, a master's, business administration." She goes, "But I'm so worried about being an imposter. I can't seem to get out and take that chance." And I thought about it for a while, and before we left, I said, people that are humble, if you're humble, you're never an imposter. Because if you're humble, you accept your inequities or your lack of knowledge in a particular job or a new job, and then you're willing to learn from others. So that's kind of where you are, I think. Because you said you're kind of an introvert, it makes you kind of humble. Mm-hmm. You're willing to watch from the outside. I know you're a commander. I'm not worried about that. But not everybody has that ability to see beyond, their rank. And then anybody that questions it or has a different idea, totally shut down. And I don't see you being like that. And in fact, I saw you in action because after you came to the academy and we talked about you coming on the podcast, first you came to the house and we talked about it. It's where we filmed this. And then you invited me to your base over there. And I spent at least 2 or 3 hours there watching, the people that you work with or work under you too. And it's just like I imagined it, a fair, passionate leader. So,
I appreciate it. And you coming out was really awesome. The team loved having you there, and it was really cool. I could see your eyes glaze over after about the 1,000th acronym that you didn't understand while we were talking through stuff. And
I was like, no, I was listening. Well, I mean, you got the entire state, and then but it was kind of intimidating for me because I'm sitting there I'm in there, with all these officers. Maybe I don't think any enlisted people. Well, in a warehouse and stuff. Mm-hmm. But they were all such great guys, man. I mean, and ladies, but mostly guys. And I mean, I was intimidated. I was like the imposter.
Yeah, I saw him that day when he got back.
Yeah,
he was like a kid in the candy shop. He's saying you took him around and met a bunch of different people.
Oh man, those guys are awesome, man.
But he did say that he was like, I just felt like I'm walking around with the man, and I'm just tagging along.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it was great, and but I mean, I think that's the whole part. Somebody asked us, 2 things. One is somebody's like, well, look at us. Because everybody has haters in the world, right? People that hate us,
Sure.
And they're like, who is he to have a podcast? I'm like, this ain't about me, bro. This podcast is not about us. I mean, it is because our name's on it, and it's my son's part of it, which could be more important than that. But it's like these stories are out there, and when you meet people, and I mean, say, for example, the guys that work with you. I mean, it's such a mix of people, races, different nationalities, and it's the best America has to offer. Mm-hmm. I mean, that shit. I mean, it was impressive, and particularly like the old guy, the maintenance guy,
Mr. Greitzer.
Yeah, I mean, that guy was legit. What was his rank before he was a what's it called?
Before he was a warrant officer?
Warrant officer,
I'm
yeah.
not sure what enlisted grade he was when he was a warrant officer, but now he's a CW5, the top of the crusty warrant officer chain.
Yeah, he was like an old dude from like old school New Yorker.
Oh yeah.
And, I mean, I'm walking with the colonel. He's looking across the base like, who's in my shop? And I can see him high stepping. I'm like, I got to stand behind the colonel. I'm like, all right, I'm just here watching, brother. I don't know.
Hey, but can we go back to something that you talked
Sure.
about earlier with, I think you said she was a waitress at the restaurant.
Yeah, that was something. Yeah, I told her that. Yeah, and I hope she listens to it. You know what I mean?
And you were talking about what was her passion that she wanted to follow that she couldn't necessarily. Well, you said she had an MBA, but
yeah, her story was even more interesting than that, and is that all right? So I might don't get choked up over this, man, but it's kind of crazy. A lot of people come up to us and just tell us these things about themselves.
Yeah.
My wife and I in particular, and they were just genuine people. But she's like, look, and we've seen her, but never had a real conversation. Let's say, and first she grew up in a foster home, and she didn't know that she had a twin. So the people that adopted her about 2 years in, hey, how would you like to meet your twin sister? So then they adopt her too.
oh wow,
And then they were able to make contact with her older sister who was somewhere else in the state and reconnect them all. And then over time, reconnect them back to their grandmother
wow.
who still lives in Virginia. So, I mean, it's a heck of a story. So, you can only imagine the many things that she has to overcome to, a day-to-day function for somebody who grew up in foster care. But she sounded like she was, really lucky to have these particular people. But, what we take for granted, so many people, daily existence becomes a struggle, particularly if you don't have that family unity as a base. She probably, I don't think she ever had a father figure, but so I'm not sure. I know she wanted to be a social worker, and then she said she ended up going into business too. So I can't remember what she got her bachelor's in, but
Now, I hope she's able to pursue whatever that passion is that will drive her. And I'll tell you, I don't want to turn your podcast into the Kate Stiles promotional podcast, but your
That's my
interview,
girl, man. That's my girl,
Your
bro.
interview with Kate Stiles was phenomenal, and the takeaway I think from that, and it's kind of odd. You talk to people, and it seems like all of a sudden you have these series of conversations that line up with some theme. The recent conversations I've been having, I even had two today with soldiers that I was with today, and they were talked about. And so these are Guard soldiers, so they have their Guard career and then they have a civilian career.
Right. Yeah.
But what they both talked to me about was in their civilian capacity, they were following their passion. Like they found careers that aligned with their passions. And there's a book that I read that kind of drives what I do in philosophies that I have. It's by an author named Simon Sinek. And you and I talked about this book. It's called Start With Why. And it's a lot about entrepreneurship and in the business world, that if your business aligns with your passion and your why, right, you'll be more productive in that arena, right? And so you go back to Kate Stiles' interview and where she was taking pictures in the garage, right? So she knew what her passion was, and when she finally decided she was going to pursue that, it shows in her product, it shows in her business, it shows in what she does. And people who genuinely know why they want to do something and follow that passion end up being incredibly, if not successful, but very happy in their careers. So,
yeah, at least fulfilled, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny because, we who thought about doing this, you or me? I can't even remember.
The podcast itself.
Yeah.
This is all your idea.
Oh, dang. I'm old,
Yeah.
bro. I can't remember you coming up with this shit.
But
But
no, 'cause
anyway.
I remember you came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to do a couple shorts and some sort of motivational video or something of you have the equipment, and we'll just put it up on Facebook or YouTube or something." And then if that led into the podcast idea, and we had the microphones, we had a microphone.
Yeah, we invested in some of the stuff, yeah.
And I had all the recording equipment, so we just said, I think it was one day we were like, let's just do a pilot, see what happens.
Yeah. I think the pilot you guys did was great. Matter of fact, I think after I listened to the pilot, I text you a picture of Big Enos and Little Enos from Smokey and the Bandit, right? Yeah. And then every time I think about you two together, I think of Big and Little Enos from Smokey and the Bandit.
Damn. Yeah. When I get home, I'm going to hit your mama right in the kisser. Yeah, that was Jackie Gleason, right?
Yeah, he was sheriff.
Man,
Yeah.
I might be sheriff one day. But yeah, so Eric, talking about that. So when my kids went to college, it wasn't necessarily like, so Eric, I just use him as an example as a young person following their passion was, we said, when you go to college, pick something that you're passionate about. It was music for you and dance for our daughter. Because, not only did we know from personal experience, but we also, just knew by life experience was if you're not passionate about something you do, you're not going to succeed.
That's right.
So, I can't send my son to college and say, take this because that's what I did or this is what I want you to do. And, it was still hard because it's a hard program, the music program at VCU. But, he did it, and I just wanted him to have a degree because a couple of reasons. One, we had paid ahead of time, that's prepaid, but that's not really the real reason. The reason is because you get that additional knowledge you wouldn't have otherwise. And same with my daughter, Megan. But, he was a teacher 5 years, followed the passion. But a lot of times what happens is, particularly in these arts programs, is they try to grind you down to rebuild you, just like the military, and you lose that passion over time of why you think you originally went into the music or dance, in my daughter's case. And now the podcast, because now he does, he's like an HVAC apprentice. And with his goal, maybe one day owning his own business, which that's the American dream. And he's actually almost more passionate about that than you are about.
Yeah, I was on Frankie today because we went. I picked up pretty quick, and the guys in my company who had been there for 15, 20 years, and that says a lot about the company too. They liked. Well, one guy, Rusty, he's kind of quiet, introvert, and he told me one day I like having you with me because you like to learn and listen, and I like to be able to teach. He's like, I'm not really a teacher, but you pick up on what I say a lot. So I was with him most of the summer, and he taught me more hands-on stuff than I could learn now that I'm on my own. But I was telling Frankie, my wife, today, we worked on one of his friend Russ's houses today this morning. I went and fixed something in his crawl space. And I was like, I was in, 8 o'clock in the morning in a crawl space on a Saturday, just working on something. And that's still stuff I had to figure out and fix that I didn't know was wrong with it before we got there. And I got home, I was like, never thought about it as work when I was there. I was just kind of like, I like tinkering with stuff.
So you're
I like
passionate
fixing
about
stuff. And I didn't see it as a job. It was just.
Well, so let me take control of the podcast for a second.
Okay, man. We need some help, man.
Let me ask a question. Why did you start teaching? No, so I've been listening to all these podcasts. So y'all don't have to educate me, but so much on all of this stuff,
true.
right? So, but answer this question.
Okay.
Why did you start teaching?
I knew I wanted to help people, and the first avenue I saw was I liked music. I liked helping people, and my something I get for myself is it being able to sit down and talk to someone and not educate them in necessarily, but to help them and make them feel, better, or if they're going through something, just to listen. I think I'm a pretty good listener.
Yeah.
And so when I remember in high school, I was like, well, I like music. I like to help people. And actually, when I was in high school, I was a drum major, so I had that leadership role as well my senior year. So I got to see, I can do this, and it's something if an opportunity arises, I could be in that role. So I just went that avenue and put those two together. And I was like, well, music teacher.
Okay. So why did you stop teaching?
I stopped teaching because it was, I'll get that in a second. I stopped teaching because it was less of that one-on-one interaction that I wanted. And it's not just my county or my school. It was, 30 to 35 kids in a classroom for 90 minutes at a time, and there was no real one-on-one interaction with one teacher in the room because you're dealing with behavior issues. You're dealing with, you kind of got to meet in the middle with the kids who are behind the kids who are learning faster, and it got to the point where the administration was backing up the parents more than us. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of just, I don't want to say babysitters for 8 hours a day, but it took the music out of it, and also took a lot of those teacher moments that you have. And I had plenty of them, but it got to the point where I was overweighed by the discipline.
So you had some naivety going into teaching about what the environment might be, and once you gain more perspective, then you recognize that maybe that wasn't the path that you wanted to go down because of too many of other competing interests that got in the way of what you actually wanted to do.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly what I pictured it being.
Yeah.
Well,
and don't get me wrong. I put my heart into it, and I always gave 120% because, and especially with music, you're putting on performances every couple months, and you're critiqued by what the kids put on, and you're judged by what the kids do. And so for me, I was like, when we go out, I'm going to put on the best show we can and get them prepared as best as I can. And I can say, like, not bragging or anything, I don't think we ever had a bad performance. But I did have to make, there was times where, the kids really wanted to do one song, and I was like, we're not doing that one because,
wasn't ready or something.
They weren't ready, yeah. I didn't want to put them in that position. And when I left, I still have people today saying, I feel bad for the kids. You don't get to teach, and almost putting me down for getting out of teaching. But I had to, for my own mental health, I think it was the best option for me, in a selfish way.
What are you thinking of?
Well, no, you and I have talked a lot about perspective in the past, right? And about as you grow through. But I'm just wondering, like, is there still something missing for you that was that initial passion and drive and desire to have that ability to develop people around music? Is that missing in your life, and are you doing anything to put that in if it is?
Well, I think the music side of it was mostly my creative side, and I think I could have taught math, I could have taught anything, because the good thing about me is I have this equipment, and I actually play more music and do more with music than I did as a teacher, because I wasn't doing it full time. I'm not doing it full time now, I should say. And the podcast is an outlet for me to touch on that editing, creative side I like. So honestly, my personal preference of music and what I like to do has gotten stronger now that I've stopped teaching, because I get home and I didn't want to think about picking up an instrument. Yeah. But it's funny you say that, because you meet these kids and you get a connection with them, and I mean, they kind of become a family, because you see them every other day for my case, I saw them for 2 years at a time. So you kind of watch them grow, and you guys have bad days and good days together. So I do miss that part of it. But with my new job now, I can't tell you how many people, because I like to conversate anyway, and I can't tell you how many people I go to who are crying in their house just talking about whatever. I lost my son, I lost my husband, and I feel like I get to touch in a lot of lives now, because I go to 4 or 5 different houses a day. Some people, they're like, hey, it's over there, and I don't see him the rest for 2 hours. But
so he's just like you. You recognize that. Do you see yourself in your son? I imagine you do a lot of times, but you know what he's describing right now?
Go ahead now.
Is you as a police officer. Because so. And here's what we used to talk crap about you all the time back in the police department days. The same thing that people are talking about him right now is like, come on, Liverman, get the call done and get on to the next call. This is the same thing we used to say about you in Petersburg. Come on, Liverman. But you became a police officer, in my opinion, for the right reasons. Because you spent a lot of time with people. And where the rest of us were like, hey, I'm 10-8, I'm out, I'm gone. This call's done. Let me check this one off. I got to get to the next one. And we used to think about, you always took so much extra time. And sometimes that was frustrating because calls are backing up, but Liverman's out for 25 minutes on a call. But the reality was you were investing a lot of time in people. And I saw that passion in you then. I saw that passion in you at the police academy when I was there, and talking to the recruits. They all had so much respect for you because you personally engaged with them. You have made, you've had great effects on people throughout your whole entire life. And I know what you're doing now. You're having great effects on people. And I respect that more today than I know you these days than I ever did in the police department, because you frustrated me back in those days because we just wanted you to get on to the next call.
That was funny,
But I think your passion, and I think you both have this same thing, it's about engaging with people. And that's what I like with this podcast, because you guys are engaging with people. You get to know people. You just described when you were at the restaurant and people come up to you and Shelley and just give you your stories. Well, why? Because you're welcoming, because you are genuinely interested in people. And that's a strength that I see with both of you. But if I call your AC company and they send you and I'm number 4 on the list, I'm going to ask for somebody else because I need somebody to get to my house quicker.
Yeah, if you're number 4.
Fair.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the compliment. Yeah, I mean, there's, 2 things. Number one, my son and my daughter, and of course my wife, but that's it. We wrapped ourselves around our kids. Like, if I don't talk to them every day, I'm jacked up, man. You know what I mean? And it probably drive him crazy, and my daughter, but my wife and I are both that way. So I know probably drive their spouses crazy. But yeah, I remember people used to freaking hate me, man. Like, remember Sergeant Richardson?
Oh yeah,
John Richardson. That bastard hated me, bro. He's my sergeant, and same thing. Like, what are you doing out there? What is all this? Because they didn't care nothing about it. So I guess what I was doing then is what they're really doing now. Because well, maybe not so much now because I don't have many officers. But back when I started, you were measured by the arrest you made.
That's right.
And if you didn't make a felony arrest,
That's right.
Nobody even gave a crap. They're like, man, what are you? You were soft, or I had these little round glasses and stuff. They looked like John Lennon and stuff. Man.
But that's so. If I think about today, I think about the people to me that I like. If I was in a hiring capacity in a police department, what would I be looking for? Well, I wouldn't be looking for Dennis Rohler, who grew up overseas, moved into an apartment in the city because he knew he stood a better chance of getting hired. So he claimed he was a city resident because he just moved into an apartment, right?
That's pretty smart, though.
I would be looking for Randy Batts. I'd be looking for Emmanuel Chambers. I'd be looking for people who are vested in the community and actually want for the long haul to make the community better, safer place, right? So those are the kind of people that, to me, I don't know. I think back about myself in that 8 years, not that I didn't do some good, I imagine. And it shaped me a lot in my life and who I am today, that 8 years in the police department. A whole lot of positive experiences. But I was never really there because I felt I was part of the Petersburg community, and for the long term wanted to. That's a horrible thing for me to say, but that's not why I was there. I was there because I was on the bike squad, and it was really cool to ride bikes, and because I was on the SWAT team, and it was really cool to be on the SWAT or CRT team because it was really cool, and that's why. After 8 years, I went to do something else because I wasn't there for the right reasons in the first place. So.
Well, don't be so hard on yourself, because a lot of people didn't want to live in the city because it's just the condition of the city. You follow me?
Well, I didn't grow up there. I think that's key. I didn't grow up even in this area. Even you have ties here to this area. I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying, but I wouldn't feel so bad about it. You are there putting your life on the line for total strangers. That's about the biggest commitment as you can make.
Yeah.
And there was no doubt if something was going down, you would have bust through the door knowing you may be killed by, somebody who doesn't mean well. So that's a commitment that a lot of cops make. But I know what you're saying about the people living there. Like, Randy Batts, if he doesn't live in Petersburg, he lives right outside of it. And I think Chambers still lives there now.
Yeah, they've given their whole lives to that community. So.
Well, Batts might give a lot more, so.
So I ask you the same. I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask little Enos over here. Like, why did you go to the academy?
Oh, why did I go to the academy? Well, I wanted to get back. I was thinking what he was answering was, it's one thing, so I had a bigger message other than, let's say, firearms, right? But when I taught firearms, for example, or DT, for example, because it's step by step by step, my favorite students weren't the ones that knew how to shoot already. They were the people that didn't know how to shoot at all. Or say we had particularly in the jailer academy, we had recruits that may have been victims of domestic violence, because the majority of the jailers were mostly female. Yeah. And some of them were victims of domestic violence where handguns may have been involved, or they may have witnessed violence with handguns. So we had recruits there that were female, and because females are more open about that kind of stuff. But I don't think I'll be able to pass. I'm terrified of guns. I don't even want to hold a gun. But when we were able to teach them the process. So 2 things: one, the process of mastering a tool, which is a firearm, and they could pass the score. That was a big success for us. Mm-hmm. But the bigger success was that I'm a recovering alcoholic. I went through a major depression, as a police officer, but had some issues prior when I was younger. that kind of came back to haunt me because I probably didn't deal with them, until later once I was already a cop. So all the mistakes that I made, I didn't want these people to make the same mistakes.
Yeah, that's right.
So what I would do is, I would follow this protocol, somewhat within the rules of the academy. But I tried to go beyond that because they were pretty, slack, and they still are. But in the midst of all that, I would expose myself to the recruits as human and making all these mistakes. And I'm like, if take it from somebody who went down to the bottom, about as low as you can get, and who had to rebuild themselves, So I think if I gave anybody anything, well, I can't say what's more important because being able to defend yourself is probably about as key as it gets for survival. But I think it was a passion to connect with people at a level that I don't think, I'm not bragging, but I mean, you have this natural connection with people, and if you can touch them in a way that's going to make them better, or and as a person, then as the ability to survive in an encounter, that's real. And I think the realest thing was two things. The third thing is this. I just told them the truth. Close your eyes, pretend somebody you're going to have to take somebody. First of all, are you prepared to kill somebody today? Are you prepared to take somebody's life? That's number one, right? Because you may have to do that. You may have to take somebody's life as a police officer. And I'd ask them to, close your eyes. I think Carl Burnett did this to us. Picture the person you got to encounter, and then, it's a good shot. You got to take it. It's a clean shot. There's no question. And you go around and ask people who it was. But they never pick an 80-year-old person who has dementia. They never pick a 14-year-old kid who's in there shooting up a school, and or a lady who's bipolar or whatever, schizophrenic. And you got to do these things. And are you prepared to do that? So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so think about this. And you said the exact word that I was thinking of. You said expose yourself, but you made yourself vulnerable. And then you were willing to take your life experiences, and you and I are the same age. I think we're both 55 now, right? You 55?
Yeah, you look a lot better than me.
Well, that's always been true. But, I mean,
pretty much.
We have these life experiences. And you see, I've completely turned my focus this way right now.
He got the psychological. I'm closed off, man. I'm like, I don't want to shoot.
So we have these life experiences, and I think at this point, like, if what we're not willing to do is to take those experiences and give back, and at least try the best that we can to take the challenges, the obstacles, the things that we've been through, and lay them out in the open and say, hey, if you're struggling with these types of things, I've been there. I'm willing to help you.
Right.
And so that, to me, and I'm kind of jumping way to a whole other place, but that's what's important about this place in life right now is, and when I talk to soldiers, I say a lot of times, these are things that I've been through. I've been through divorce. I have a lot of alcoholism in the family, drug abuse in the family, suicide in the family. So as we take these obstacles and things that we've been through, what my passion is right now and what I really enjoy is actually connecting on an individual basis, just like you have been, taking those experiences and giving any little tidbit of information that I can to make life a little bit easier or to give some lessons and tools to other folks these days. So part of my leadership philosophy right now in what I do, I almost call myself a cheerleader, because what I do as a commander is try to help younger folks identify obstacles that they have in their life and then find ways to overcome those obstacles so they can be as successful as they want to be in life. So
how do the other commanders see that in you? Because they're watching you and then they're looking at themselves like, what the hell are they doing? Is that kind of like what other people are doing of the same rank or a little bit less, or you don't see as much of that?
Oh, like my peers?
Yeah, your peers.
Well, the great thing about what I love about maybe just not the Virginia Guard, but the Army as a whole, right? We see each other as peers, and again, not in competition with each other, but we share ideas with each other to compete together, right, to make the organization the best that it can possibly be. And so I got a lot of 06s that are fellow commanders along with me. And the great thing is we do share ideas and we have enough respect for each other to work together to make each other better every day. It's a pretty cool dynamic, right?
Yeah.
That everybody's working together to help strengthen everybody else.
That's good though. I mean, when I picture the Army, I don't picture it like that. I picture it, like a lot of competition. Because I wasn't in the military, so maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm picturing it off of movies or like the show MASH or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know people that have been in the military, and maybe I don't know how many officers I really know that are the same rank as you, but
so what I won't say is that everybody subscribes to what I'm saying.
Right, that's okay. But
and as you progress through the career, you grow, you change. So I'm not the same person as a colonel as I was as a captain.
Right. I mean, it makes sense.
Or as a major, right? Life experiences have made me wiser, if you want to use that word. Being introspective and looking at myself and understanding where my flaws are at and deliberately taking steps to make those better has made me more mature in my thought process. Reading books like there's a book called Primal Leadership. And the book Primal Leadership is all about taking the emotion out of what you do and owning your emotional posture instead of allowing emotions to drive your actions, understanding, right, that you have control over how you respond to your emotions. Mm-hmm. And when you take emotion out of leadership, you're able to more calmly and effectively lead and provide feedback. Like I can all day long enforce very high standards and do it in a way that's unemotional. And it's a whole lot more effective that way.
Yeah, I felt a lot of that in teaching. And when I first started, everything felt personal. And you get going and you feel like the bad guy all the time. But it got to the point where you kind of put on a act. Not that you acted. I mean, I would get mad. I'd get aggravated. But you'd put it forward and the kids were like, oh my God, he's really serious right now.
Mr. Lieberman's mad this time. Yeah.
Yeah, and then in your head, it's just another,
Yeah, well, anybody that knew me, a lot of people know me as when I was a major and I was an executive officer, I was a completely different person than I was as a battalion commander. Some of that was I assumed a certain role. Right. And that comes back to the imposter thing. Well, I thought an XO was supposed to act in this certain way, so those are the things I tried to do. Now, as an 06 level commander, I have a different personality in how I address things.
Sure. Well, you got to. Well, I mean, I think you just summed it up, and kind of what Eric was saying too is we assume different. Let's lay this out a little bit. So not everybody gets what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people, and there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, it's just a different personality type, or they're just a different kind of person. I used to say there's people that watch the sunsets, and people that never even see a sunset. But the sun's always setting; they just never watch it, right?
Right.
So if you're smart enough to know, or if you're wise enough to know, you put on a different mask at different times. Mm-hmm. As a father, you wear a mask. As a husband, you wear a mask. It's still the same person, but you got to assume these different roles, and that's something that, particularly with police officers, they take these things personal. And particularly this younger generation. So if you're whatever, I don't want to go down this road, but I mean, if everything somebody says to you as a police officer, you take personal, you're going to have a long day. Yeah. You're not going to make it. And so in the academy, as an example, I would push people and say things controversial just on purpose. And then they'd go run to the director or whoever, their agency, and they'd come back with these crazy things. I'm like, I'm doing this on purpose. You realize that was purposeful. Yeah. I didn't call them names or nothing like that. But the point is, you do that to expose them to that kind of pressure. And when you can remove yourself from the situation, and think about it, somebody trying to injure you as a police officer, physically injure you, they're saying a bunch of things to you. But if you can separate yourself from that and realize that they're mad at the badge or the authority, they don't know you personally, then you can gain better control of your emotions and make better decisions. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you teach that to somebody? When you and I were in the academy and probably, in the military and stuff, they're like, hey, just suck it up, man.
That's right.
Hey, I feel stressed, Sarge. What's wrong if you suck it up? It's like, that's not, okay, how do I suck it up? What does that even mean? So that's kind of something I did talk about. Breathing control, positive mental lifestyle, positive diet, sleep when you can get it, positive outlook, recognize the victories when you have them, and when you get back home, be thankful for everything you have.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you don't have that, if you don't recognize those things, you take them for granted, and then all of a sudden you stand there, you think you're alone, but you're probably not, but you don't know the strengths that are around you. And some people don't have that. Some people don't have anybody. So,
no, I do know that was not the way that I was raised. You were probably raised differently, but the way I was raised was you put your head down, you drive through. It was suck it up. It's like life sucks, deal with it, drive on. And then you just kind of buried everything inside of you, and you just kept plowing on day after day after day. You just keep on driving on. It's obviously a lot better when you understand every life event has some kind of recourse on you as a person, and if you understand how it affects you and you can deal with it better, then that's great. Probably better than just putting your head down and driving through.
Yeah, they definitely weren't raised, I mean, they were never allowed to just quit stuff and not finish stuff, but I mean, they weren't. We try to tell them why, when you could. Now, that's not always the case, because it might be, don't do this because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, why is that? Because I said so.
Yeah, that's right.
Because sometimes if you're, there is no time to explain it and there's no explanation. I'm your parent.
But I do think what you were saying earlier, the ability to listen, and like what we're doing right now, we would do all the time growing up. Like, it wasn't just like, what'd you do at school today? It was both you and Mom could tell something was up. Like, there was plenty of times where I was like upset about something or something was going on. I was like, I'm not going to tell him. And as soon as I walked in the door, he'd be like, "What's going on? What happened today?" I'm telling you, it was like immediate. And then it would just turn into this. We were just talking.
I believe there wasn't many quiet moments in the Liverman household growing
up.
Hell
no. Well, you heard the episode. You heard Tommy's my daughter's husband. His first exposure to the Livermans. He's like, "What the hell are these people doing?" Yeah, that was crazy, man. I mean, we don't always do this stuff like that, but there is no. Yeah, we don't hide. That there's a picture right there on the wall. You can't see it, by Jordan Peterson's like slay the dragon in his lair. If you hold these things inside, they'll destroy you. Yeah. And I was raised like you. I mean, my stepdad, my parents are divorced, but my stepdad, I mean, nothing wrong with him, but he was very that same thing. He didn't want to hear a bunch of crap. Just press forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what we did and what Frankie and I do now, and I did when I was a teacher, was we never left without resolve. It wouldn't be 100% resolved, but we never tried not to go to sleep mad. We never just stormed out if we were, arguing about something or something happened. We'd always sit there and almost like decompress and talk about it. There was always a talk, no matter what. And sometimes that was like the worst thing was like when, like Dad would be like, "All right, come here." We'd go into the room. We'd have a talk.
Imagine it took a while.
Yeah, it's like, you know what I'm saying, bro? Like, let me lay this by you. Let me lay this out for you. He's like, "God daggone, I got it, man." Now, hang on, man. You sure? Yeah.
Hey, can we go down another road?
Dude,
can we go down this place? So, and talk about when you're connecting with, you didn't call them candidates. What'd you call them in the police department?
Recruits. Yeah.
Recruits, with the recruits. And talking about emotional intelligence and understanding how can you be there for somebody else. So there's one thing about connecting with folks, showing them how to help themselves and be resilient. Mm-hmm. But what kind of lessons did you give about how to support other folks when they were going through things? Was that a topic that you ever really delved into? Well,
I mean, I think to answer it is, it's a good question. When you answer a question with a question, you're trying to think. Mm-hmm. That's from the read interview.
To buy yourself some space and edit it out later.
Yeah. No, I think that two things. One, you what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Not display, but you show by your actions speak louder than the words. You know what I'm trying to say? So the first day in, they can't talk. Don't talk to them. Don't get to know them. But as you get to know them better, and one-on-one, you actually show the people or the recruits how much you care about them. I'm yelling at you, daggone, da-da-da-da-da. I meet me in the office on the next break. And then you sit down and like, "Hey, man, what's going on with you? Something else is going on here besides what you're doing here at the academy. Or something going on at home. You got a situation with your wife or your parents or whatever. And then you make yourself available and you tell them. And that's I was going to say something you did was at the academy was, here's my personal cell phone number. Call me anytime. It doesn't matter if it's after you graduate. Keep that number for as long as you live and call me. Mm-hmm. I do this. I did the same thing. But I think you would watch these conflicts build, within the class, and you try to resolve them or have them resolve them, and emulate what you're trying to do with them to help them help each other. Now, it is a good question, and I think one way I did that was when you're an officer in a community, you need to know the community and the people that live in the community. So if you work in Petersburg, you need to know all these things about the city of Petersburg. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. Know that it has the highest teen pregnancy rate in the state, the highest single-parent family rate in the state. The schools are unaccredited. Poverty is at this particular level. Know your community, know the people, and then you can start trying to make sense of why they're doing what they're doing. You know? And the other thing I would do is this, is when I sued the agency, the city, nobody came to help me. Nobody. Not one officer stepped up. Now somebody said, "Well, hey, Liverman must have been a pretty big piece of crap or whatever." But what it was they were terrified because they knew whoever was equated with me would be dealt with like they're part of me. So the thin blue line, we like to say that a lot, but we don't do a very good job of looking out for each other. So I think I pressed that home hard. Is like, yeah, you be here for each other because this thin blue line, which is I'm not saying it's not real. But when the shit hits the fan, not physically, but when an officer's down or they're depressed or they're having problems outside of the job, we do a pretty bad job at making sure they're okay. So make sure you do reach out.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to answer it, but I think that's about it.
No, but the place that I was going with this, and you hit on it now, is you can't go down the same road at the same place as the person that you're trying to help.
Right.
It kind of comes back that emotional control and talking about police officers and the ability to keep it unpersonal. And the only way that you can really help somebody in the community is understand the community.
Right.
But at the same time, you can't get emotional as they are about those types of situations,
no,
right?
Yeah.
So that you have to stay from a place of a little bit removed from the emotional part to be able to help folks get through things sometimes. So.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, and is that okay? Look at your screen.
Yeah, you guys keep going. I'll just exit out of that. It's good.
Yeah, so I think the other part of it is when you were talking about, and I think that we were at your base for some reason, and the amount of training you guys get at different levels. Talk about kind of what we're talking about now, which is personal, and as far as your personal health, mental health, physical health, and the training that the Army provides. I mean, I was surprised at that.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know about all agencies, but as far as local, I don't know about Chesterfield, Richmond, or let's say Henrico have their own academies. These regional academies aren't talking about any of this kind of stuff. And it's kind of a shame. I mean, they gloss over it, but to me, that's the most important part of it.
Yeah. I talked about that at the graduation.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
99's graduation, right? And what I thought was really cool, we had this whole conversation about their class motto. And their class motto was, right? And there was a whole lot of controversy behind this thing. Above all else, we go home.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't their first motto, but go ahead.
Well, that one, and when they talked to me about it, they said that they were kind of upset because they got chastised about that. That the sense that some folk got from that was, well, I'll do anything I got to do to get out of this, to get out of my duty day and go home.
Right.
And so I relayed this story and my wife is she is my biggest hero, and she's taught me so much. But one thing that she taught me was home is your place of peace, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so what I said to them that day was, I completely get your class motto. I think it's beautiful because what you're saying to me, what it said was, above all else, I'm going to find peace. And so they're going to drive through the day. They're going to do exactly what they need to do. They're going to handle situations the way they need to be handled. And at the end of the day, they're going to be at peace with that. And if you take all of those experiences that those individuals will see on a daily basis and you take all that home with you without being at peace, your home life is not going to be good. And if your home life isn't a place where you can find peace, then they go back to work the next day and you're still in turmoil. And it's over and over and over again. And it's so incredibly important. My wife has stressed this with me so much that the home has to be a place of peace. And so whatever we got to work through,
Yeah.
right? Whatever we have to deal with, however we have to deal with it. And I have a lot of trauma and stuff from life, a whole lot of stuff that I've been through. I've got diagnosed with PTSD from a number of things. But the reality is I've got to deliberately work on those things that are bothersome to me that takes away peace, because at home we have to have peace, and that's very important.
Yeah.
So I was really proud of them for coming up with that. I thought it was really good.
No, that was good. Yeah. And they caught, yeah. Well, first of all, like, I mean, this is kind of taking me back. I don't know if we should even talk about it, but like somebody was like trying to mess with their class motto. Could we put it up on the wall? Like they were going to take it down. I was like, you don't touch anything in this freaking classroom. If you come into this classroom as an instructor, you don't touch anything in this freaking classroom.
No.
You don't touch anything that's our thing. But what they really caught hell was, and it's kind of like, you push them to see how far you can push them in a sense, and then you build them back up. But like their first motto was, I want what I want.
I don't like that one, but
yeah. Well, they didn't like it either, but I gave it for them.
Oh, okay.
Because they were individuals. They weren't a team yet. I'm like, okay, so basically, and it was like some kind of song. I was listening to the radio on the way to work. I was like, that morning, I was like, I think it's a Tool song. He's like, I want what I want. I'm like, damn, that's the class motto. And they were pissed about that. They wanted that one taken down.
Yeah.
Because every instructor that came in, they're like, what is this? I'm like, oh, that's their class motto.
They had to work to get it taken down.
Yes.
I got you.
That's good.
Yeah, so they came up with, above all else, we go home. And some, let's just be honest, man. There's a lot of cops that they're not brain surgeons, all right? And they're like, what is this? But see, two things about us sitting here right now. You haven't mentioned anything about your military career. You've been deployed and all these other things. We're sitting here talking about this other stuff. Like, that's nothing. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to say about you, man. I mean, I was like prepared to have this thing laid out. Tell me about your deployments and all these things. And that comes with wisdom and being humble, man. The bigger message is what we're saying now is how do you become a better person? And it's not something you think about when you're 20s, or that's why you're trying to look at yourself back in Petersburg in your 20s and like, why didn't I think what I think now? That's impossible.
No, it is. You're exactly right.
Yeah, there's no way to think that way because you're not built that way, and nobody is. You may have some inkling of what it should be, but you don't know. And so now you want to look back. And how do I make things better for the people coming along? And the other part, the hard.
I was gonna say, and you're over top of what you were back then as well. You're looking down at these younger guys,
right, yeah.
And you used to be in their shoes, and you're either guiding them in what could be the right direction, and using your own.
Well, that's why I tell you, you learn from everybody, right? Yeah. You either learn what to do, what not to do. But the fact is that you're learning or you should be learning through every experience that you have in life. And you should be taking every opportunity to take in every single event that you go through and then rethink through that and determine, like, number one, how could I do it better next time? Or, like, how did this experience grow me? And then how can I take what I've been through and help somebody else in the same exact situation?
Yep.
And being very general about what I'm getting ready to say right now, I learned something about a soldier today, something that they're going through in their life. One of the leaders, their company commander, came to me and said, hey, so-and-so is going through blah, right? And so these folks know a lot about me because I've been very open about myself and things that I've been through. So I went to him and I put my hand on him and I said, if you need to talk to me, call me. Now, this guy's a sergeant. And I just said to him, and he looked at me and he said, and he smiled and he said, what are you talking about, sir? And I said, what you're going through. And he put his head down and he said, yes, sir. And we had a connection. Yeah. He understood that I knew what he was going through, and he also understood that even though I'm multiple levels above him, that as a human being, he could pick up the phone and call me because I have something that I could possibly help him with what he's going through. So,
that meant a lot to him, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say this earlier, but what you said one of you said earlier when you went to the graduation, you said, call me if you need me anytime.
Yeah, he told our class that. Yeah.
I noticed as a teacher, when you're trying to resolve something and you're only with them for some X amount of time and something happens and you want to resolve it and you want to help them. And when I first started, it was like when the kids, it's probably when, if you're talking to anybody, like, I don't want to talk right now, or, someone's not ready. But if you give them that opportunity, where I would send a kid outside and be like, when you're ready, if you need to talk to me, I'm here. And 90% of the time, they would, without me going back to them, they would come up and say, hey, can I talk to you real quick?
Yeah.
Because it gives them time to process maybe what they want to say or what actually,
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, I think what people miss is that everybody wants to be heard. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the problem with like young people is they think they need to be heard right that instant. It's like, bro, take it down a notch. Middle class, not the time to hear your complaint, But they're kids in Eric's case. But even these recruits or even the soldiers, I mean, that's that part of that discipline they got to learn. But the other part is if you can't share your ideas with somebody else, that's how people have problems. Because we all have bad ideas, and then once we're able to process them through other people, then we can decide which are the good and which are the bad ones. You follow what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah. So
in your case, like let's say this soldier you were talking about that you gave him that message. So here's the company commander. I mean, I'm not trying to say the wrong term, but yeah, I'm telling you as your colonel, you can call me. I'm gonna try to help you. Mm-hmm. That's huge because I don't think he probably doesn't see it that way. He probably sees you as the colonel. He's like, hey, that guy's bad.
I can't look weak.
I can't look weak, or he thinks I'm a piece of what, or whatever. Who the hell knows what he thinks? But I mean, that opportunity exists, and that could be something that could change his life. I mean, one interaction with somebody can change their freaking existence.
Yeah, it can, right?
If you don't extend yourself. Now, you may extend yourself 10 times. Maybe one person out of 10 comes to you. Okay, well, that one person. And we always hear that, like that people don't think that's true, but it is true.
No, I think it. Talk about return on investment.
Yeah.
If what you're investing is just authenticity, I authentically am here for you, right? That's my investment to say to a group of people, hey, these are the things I've gone through in my life. I'm here for you if you want to come talk to it. And I have found that just being authentic and open, the return for me and for the individuals who have talked to me about stuff has been big because it's rewarding to me. Mm-hmm. I say, well, I suffered through this, and this. If what I can do is then pay back that suffering for somebody else so they don't have to go through it quite as much, then it's rewarding to me and it's rewarding to them. I think it's a very Christian principle, right? I think there's something very...
You read my mind.
It's very Christian in, the question, why do I suffer? Like, why would God make me go through these things and why would I have to suffer? Well, you know what? If in the end it's to help others, then it's worth it, I think.
Well, it's like Saul Paul, man. He used to prosecute and watch the murder of Jews, right? And this is in the Bible. And then he became Paul. And on the road to Damascus, right? Yeah. And then he can say, "Now I was blind, but now I can see." Right. I mean, that's the whole process. Everything you just been talking about. I'm a 22-year-old. I'm worried about myself. I progressed through life, not just the military and the ranks, and all of a sudden now I was blind back here, but now I can see. Mm-hmm. Now what you choose to do with it, that's up to you.
That's right.
If you don't give back, then shame on you.
That's right.
There's plenty of people that don't, but there's plenty of people that do. And if you just watch the news, you would think that most people don't, but that's not true because in a country of 350 million people and we're still functioning, people are giving back.
Yeah. Now, your way of leading, is it something that is that what's developed over time, or was there someone you looked up to that?
That's a good question,
Yeah, so there've been a lot of people I've looked up to. Should I go all the way back? I looked up to Big Ed Jones back in the police department.
I'm trying to get him on the podcast, man. So if you can talk to him, get him on here, man.
It's got to be a compilation of everything from good and bad all put together.
Yeah.
I think back to even when I was a younger commander, what was important to me was to spend time with individuals. And I can't do that. I'm the commander of 1,700 people right now who come in one weekend a month. And so it's a lot harder for me to engage at that level. But what I've seen is just being, we call it transparent or whatever you want to call it, like just being a real person I won't say that people respect you because you show that you're a real person, but you can connect differently. Even when I speak to a theater full of 300-400 soldiers, right? And what I think is as I'm speaking to them, I'm connecting with them because it's not just I just don't come in and brief things. We talk about real life stuff, and I take questions and I stay after. And I think that I have a hard time answering that only because I don't want to sound like I don't like to. Maybe it's my humility or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like to. But it is a compilation of life, at 55 and everything that I've seen. And obviously I still make mistakes, but I've had the ability to sort of to shape my leadership style. And like I said, this is what I believe. And I always tell people when I talk to them, my unit wears a certain patch. We have a patch on our left shoulder. Mm-hmm. I am the most senior person out of 1,700 and some odd people that wears that patch. It's my responsibility to, number one, set the right example for all of them, and number two, to make sure that I do everything I can to remove any obstacles so they can be the most successful individuals that they want to be. If you want to call that a style, but that's my leadership philosophy right now, is that if they want to be successful, I want to help them get there, and I will cheer them all the way through it. And that's pretty much my style right now.
That's awesome.
But where does that come from? I don't know. 2 parts this person, 3 parts that person, 4 parts. Somebody that I didn't want to be like, and so I deliberately did different things. And but when you talk about this, and I try to tell folks too, like when we have expectations of people that there's no way that they could live up to. There's no way that I, as an 06 30-year individual, can turn to my company commanders who are captains and generally in their 20s and expect them to see things the exact same way that I do. And I think sometimes leaders get mad when the folks that they lead aren't at the same level as they are. So you can't have unrealistic expectations
I agree with that.
of the people that you're leading, right? Because that leads to frustration, impatience, then people don't learn. And when you recognize that they can't be there, then you can spend time at their level where they're at. You can meet them where they're at and help to build them.
That's a good point. Yeah, meet them where they are, and it makes sense. Yeah, because that's exactly. I mean, I was thinking about that earlier. Was when you talk to somebody about a particular topic or something you expect of them, you can't expect them to be where you are.
That's right.
And people do, and we get mad, but that comes with wisdom too. It's like you get a little bit older. But it don't have to be some people just get people, I mean, I kind of got people even when I was a kid. I don't know if it was a survival mechanism or whatever it was, but I mean, I could read people pretty good from the jump, and then that's cool, but it's also bad because a lot of times you can see through people instantaneously. And I won't say it came from cop training, but I mean, it definitely, that has helped. But I mean, I kind of, even as a kid, I could see through people. I was like, damn, that joker's now, I wasn't always right, but I get better at it now. Yeah. All right. So I don't know how long we've been going, but something we got to cover is, and you kind of touched on what it is, really, because this always happens. I'm trying to think who was on here before we didn't even talk about.
I got to tell you what meal I'm going to have at.
We'll make. Yeah, but that's no. Before we end it up,
so we got to.
I'm not saying we're done yet. But what I want to talk about is like your wife and your kids and all that. I don't want to leave that out because if that happens, you'll be in trouble, bro. So I mean, who the hell were we talking to? I'm like, damn, we never even talked about your wife. I can't remember who the heck that was. It don't matter, but
I remember it. Was it? No, I can't remember who. Was it Stanley?
Yeah, Stanley, the sheriff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't get the chance to talk about his fiance. I'm like, we better go back and talk about your fiance.
Yeah, well,
that's a whole. It was his biggest hero.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other podcast. I could sit here and talk about my wife and her accomplishments and what she's done for me, what she's done for our kids, and when you meet somebody that completes you.
Yeah, right? You're fortunate. Yeah,
and so my wife has been able to. We say a lot of times we say your spouse is your rock. My wife has been an individual who was able to stand by me in incredibly rocky times, and provide me that peace and solid foundation that I needed as an individual. When I got divorced, it was very bad divorce, and that's a whole other topic that we could go into maybe at another time, but caused me a whole lot of trauma, caused my oldest 3 kids a whole lot of trauma. But the reality is, on the other side, my wife, when she fell in love with me, didn't 100% know what she was getting herself into, because I had so much going on inside of me that I needed to work through. But I went with that conversation we were having earlier about how do you help people. So the main way that my wife has helped me all of these years is she doesn't and hasn't deep dive down with me into those emotional, really bad places that I would go to. My wife has been very much, so if I was down in a hole struggling with something, she's not going to get down in the hole with me. Right. And so I would end up burying her in that hole if she ended up doing that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So my wife would support me by staying out of the hole and saying, you need to figure out what you got going on. Right. And then you need to work yourself through it. And I'm going to be right here when you get up to this place again. Yeah. And although I tried many, many times to drag her down into the dark abyss of those, dealing with depression and other stuff, that would try to drag her into these places. And the way that I got better was being able to get myself out of that hole instead of her trying to get down in there
with you.
And get me out of it.
So, I know you heard of Jordan Peterson, but what he says is like his philosophy, because he's a psychoanalyst and a psychologist, is like it's like a lifeguard. I'm going to save you, but their philosophy is I feed out. Yep. You're not going to drown me. We're both not going to drown.
That's right.
I'm going to help you, but I'm going to feed the water and the rescue stuff to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you can grab it, but you're not going to drown me in the process. Yep. So, and that's a great philosophy, man. So, and she knew that instinctively. So,
yeah, she has a level of strength and emotional intelligence that I've never had. I grew up and still am a very emotional person. So I've had to deliberately figure out how to help myself with being emotional. My wife, on the other hand, is more deliberate about how, not how she operates, but how she is. She studies situations. She watches things. She's not the kind of person that goes to a car dealership and buys a car the day that she's there. She's the kind of person that will watch the situation, kind of study things. She's much more methodical than I am. I'm the kind of person that would run into a car dealership and find the first car and think it was the greatest thing and buy it and run out that day.
Sound like me too.
But I've
gotten a little bit better at that. But yeah, I mean, you sound like my wife. I mean, most women are smarter than guys. We hope, not every woman is, but So, I mean, you were lucky, and I was lucky, and Eric's lucky.
I always say I married up. Like,
oh yeah,
that makes me the smarter one in the relationship because I married up. But
no, that's good. That's good. That's a good way to put it.
So my wife is also in the National Guard. She is also a colonel. She's an 06. She's commanded at the company and battalion levels, and right now she works in the Pentagon for the vice chief of
that's what I'm saying,
of the National Guard.
Yeah. She could have us taken out at any time. So I was like, that's why I was saying, are we safe? I know I wouldn't want to keep anything serious, but yeah, I mean, this is part of the podcast to have a little fun. But so I'm thinking like she's at the Pentagon. She's like, okay, hat on the hill. Okay.
Yeah,
they're probably watching us from the satellites right now. Like, bro,
I don't think so.
They probably got bigger things to worry.
They got the drones overhead, man. Now we had the guy on here that's going to be the next podcast. And he like what's it called? Do not disclose.
Non-disclosure statement.
Non-disclosure.
Whatever. I mean, he's going to see this at some point. Maybe not. Who cares? But I was like, bro, you ain't that freaking important. Whatever the hell he thought he did as a contractor. He was a contractor for, I can't remember what the company was. What Blackwater, some other name. But
I can't remember.
He's like, I think I can talk about it as like a non-disclosure. I'm like, bro, are you serious right now? But I mean, I'm sorry. I went off topic. Yeah, I mean that's impressive. So,
you wanted to talk about my wife, and you want me.
Well, then you have 2 daughters too. I mean, you got 3 older kids from your first marriage, and you got 2 daughters.
That's right. We got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Man,
oh wow.
Yeah, kindergartner in 4th grade.
Heck yeah, bro.
And they're awesome.
I bet.
We have 5 kids all together, and oldest daughter she's a paralegal at a law firm up in Northern Virginia, dual master's degree from George Mason.
Dang.
Oldest son's got a master's degree from George Mason. He works for Deloitte as a contractor, and then youngest son is in the Navy, stationed out in Tennessee.
Wow.
And then we got the big gap, and then we got
the 8-year-old.
8-year-old and and the 5-year-old. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good life.
Life is great.
Yeah. I mean, life's not going to be, it's just like when people say, I'm searching for happiness. And I think that was something I didn't learn as on my own. Like you said, I've learned two things that really helped me lately is podcasts. I've always liked books, but particularly the podcast that you can be driving anywhere and you listen to hours and hours of these things. The people are so smart, man. And they're so kind too. But the other part of having you on and having anybody on that, and I mean, we somewhat kind of choose who we do or don't, but we really want a positive message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, I mean, even when I had Evan Jones on, there's so many negative things that happened to him. We didn't really go into them in detail because it's just not. You don't want to make other people look bad. But I guess what I'm getting around to is it's not about happiness; it's about purpose, and that's everything we've said in here the whole time. So if your intent is good, you should be fine. If your intent is bad, and we all have that, we all have bad sides of ourselves. I've made more mistakes than most people, I'm sure, and but I'm still going.
Yeah.
I'm willing to learn from them and try to be a better person because of it. But
come back to this point. And when I talked about that book earlier, it starts with why. Like you just said about purpose, but if you always ask yourself, like, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And so when you see people in relationships or in their marriage sometimes, and you have to stop and ask people sometimes, like, why did you get married in the first place? Like you hear people complaining about their spouse and stuff all the time, or like, I don't know if I can say this, but I had I booked my wife for a photo shoot with Kate Stiles. Here we go promoting the Kate Stiles.
Did you ever get to meet her, by the way?
I did. Well, yeah, we had Juanita had her photo shoot last week with Kate Stiles, and it was amazing. It was awesome.
But you got to meet her in person?
Yeah, she was there. Yeah, she was really cool.
I didn't know if you were there or not.
But part of the conversation was sometimes that husbands would say, well, I'm not spending that much money on my wife. To hell with that. Like, I'm not doing that. And so then you got to go back and ask yourself, like, well, why did you get married in the first place? I got married to serve my wife.
That's it.
Like, I got married because I want to do for her. And I think many times, and that may be the way it starts, guy falls in love and, hey, I want to live my rest of my life with this woman I want to do for her. And it changes. And then we get so self-focused that you forget why you got married in the first place. And I know with everything that you all have been through, I'm 100% certain you know why you married Shelley.
Yeah.
And you have been there for her the whole time.
Yep.
And you two as a team work together through this thing called life. Yeah. Well, I married my wife because that exact same reason. Yeah. Because I want to do for her. I want to be a servant to her. Sometimes I lose that focus because I focus more on myself, but then I ask myself, well, why did you marry this woman in the first place?
Yeah, that's real.
And it's because I love her and because I want to live this life with her and we want to make each other better and I want to serve her throughout the rest of my life. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So,
yeah.
I didn't know how to say this earlier, but you kind of led to it. Was part of my decision to change careers was that because Frankie and I, we've only been married since April, but we've been together for almost 11 years now. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm old. Yeah, it has been 11 years because we met in college. But part of that was I had to give, in my own head, 100, 10, 20% to my job because in my head, I didn't want to fail the kids. I don't want to look like a failure either because I had that pride in the product we put out. But a lot of that stuff I'd bring home, I'd say after work, and she was that rock for me, and she was always, super supportive of it. But I knew I was pulling, I wasn't pulling her, myself farther apart from her, but I could tell that I was kind of bringing her into that hole a little bit. And in my own head, it was something I knew, once we had kids and everything else, I wasn't sure if I could make that barrier when I got home because I brought so much of that with me from work, and it's probably just the type of person I am. But once I made that switch, like it's completely almost hasn't 180'd, but kind of back to the point where we can be at home and completely relax, and I'm not,
worried about the next. You could come home at the end of the day and be done in a sense.
Yeah,
but you know what he just did was cognitive behavioral therapy, but an understanding of how you operate, the things that you can do cognitively to change that. And you just said it was a 180, and it's like very small things in life, once you recognize them, can completely change your life.
Yeah. And I had a conversation the other day where I finally realized, and we talk about it. I mean, I got on medication for anxiety, and anxiety, depression. I know it started with you and Megan. You guys openly talked about it, and I was like, and I always considered myself happy-go-lucky, but I would always put that wall up, and I struggle with just stressing about the smallest little things, and I just thought that was life. You wake up with a pit in your stomach every morning, and thinking about everything before you went to bed. And I got on medication, and it's changed a lot of that, and I still stress about stuff, and that never goes away. But I can't remember who I was talking to, but we talked about no matter what you do, you're always going to find something wrong with whatever's going on in that moment. So I remember I used the example when we went to Turks and Caicos. It was like the best vacation you could imagine. But every day there was always something. It's like you had a disagreement with somebody, or you're like, oh man, it's really hot today. Or you always found something wrong with what was going on. And I think in all aspects of life, you could be in your worst place or your best place. You're always going to find something to complain about. But then I also reversed that and said, no matter if you're having the best time or the worst time, there's always something to celebrate.
That's right. Yeah, you're alive. Yeah.
So that's kind of helped me too with, long days at work, or, everybody tries to look forward to the weekend, but there's plenty of times during the day where I'm sitting outside and just peace and quiet, and you're just sitting there like, man, this is awesome. You just get a little time to yourself, or you get to talk to somebody, and, and to yourself, you help them through whatever they're going through for those two 5 minutes or whatever. So it's like finding the small victories. And
well, I mean, there's one thing about being a parent too, and once you become a parent, you live, and it can be for your spouse too, but particularly once you become a parent, and that your life, you're not the number one reason you're alive, and hopefully you figured it out before you have a kid, but some people don't, and you did. I mean, but particularly with your wife, you figured out what your purpose was in the relationship, and you knew that because she helped you, and then you were able to give back. But his wife, her father passed on last Christmas, and so you were in a situation, you still are, where you're trying to help her, and you were able to say, hey, I'm gonna put myself second necessarily to make sure I'm there for her. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's what this whole life's about, man. Yeah. But keep in mind, there's some people never see that ever. Like, we were at a guy's house this morning. His daughter dates this guy who's they have a baby together, not married, and he's a first rate. He puts her second everything he can do. And I was like, that's not life, bro.
Yeah.
You don't have to settle for this knucklehead, man. And you don't have to settle for life in general, but you got to sacrifice. And that's kind of what the hill's about too, is, carry your burden, pick up your burdens and carry it and climb the hill, man. Mm-hmm. And, I see, you being on the show. I'm hoping that this builds this is kind of out of nowhere, but we're building a collaboration of things that we can go bigger and bigger to help more and more people. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm gonna use you because you're better looking. You'll be like the poster of the show. So before we wind it up, I mean, you'll obviously be coming back, right?
Yeah, I would love to come back.
So yeah,
I feel like this was just a pilot.
Well, I think it is because the Colonel's got so much to offer. And,
well, I'm no Dr. Greenberg, but I give what I can give. So.
He's actually a pretty smart guy.
He's very smart. That was another great podcast.
You know what's the crazy part is? He and I become great friends.
Yeah.
We talk all the time now, and he almost misses it if I don't text him or something. He's like, dude, what are you doing? What's wrong? You all right? Because I always looked at him as a doctor.
Yeah.
I don't think he could be my doctor at this point because it's probably too close.
Too many connections now.
Yeah, but he is. He really is smart, man. It's amazing. So, I mean, if you wonder what your life is on the path, the fact that I get to sit here with you, man, and when you came into that DT class that day, he kind of reminds me of my brother Jeff in a way. Doesn't he kind of remind you about him?
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and he came out of nowhere. I knew he was coming, but I didn't know exactly what time. And I got like, I couldn't speak. I was like, I was a loss for words. That never happens. And the people in my class were like, what the hell's wrong with him? I'm like, Bro, I thought my brother was standing right there. It just freaking took me to a whole nother planet, man. Anyway, we'll have to edit this part out.
No. But we say this all the time. It's like there's not many times you get to sit and talk like this.
Yeah.
Well, in this time of age where people are on their phones or whatever, but
yeah,
they just sit down and talk for an hour and a half is kind of
it's unheard of.
No, I told you I always loved talking to you. The last time we were hanging out in the living room, just you and I, probably could have sat here for the rest of the afternoon and probably should have recorded that one. That was a good one. But I think so. Before we wrap up, I do have to do one thing, and I wanted, because I really thought we would talk more about the National Guard in this, and we didn't, and that's okay because I think we talked on some really relevant and some important points.
Can you hang on one second? Is that out of batteries?
It's out. It's okay.
It's okay.
I want to, yeah. Well, I want you to be able to talk about the Guard, and I just want
I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure you're able to give your message. I mean, it's real. I mean,
well, what I really wanted to talk about is for folks that maybe are not really familiar with the National Guard,
right, yeah.
You know, and you asked me earlier in the podcast, like, how did I get to where I was at? And that's a whole other story. But, you know, the National Guard, outside of the fact that we have great benefits, serves the community in a way that really nobody else does. Part-time service for the community called when needed, right, by the governor.
Yeah.
And unlike the reserves, who don't have that exact same mission that we do, but it is about the only part-time job that you can have that is actually, you could consider it a career. Because in the National Guard, which is for the most part part-time service, you can advance in rank, you can advance in position, you develop yourself, you have a career roadmap. There's not a whole lot of part-time jobs where you can get promoted up through the ranks.
That's true, yeah.
And although I work full-time for the Guard, I also have my traditional position. So as a commander, that's my traditional position. I work full-time every day as the Senior Logistician for the state. But there's my Sergeant Major, who is the senior enlisted person in my organization. So he's my 09, my Command Sergeant Major. He's an assistant chief in Hampton. So those two careers together, which they started at the same time as a very young police officer, he was very young in the Guard, they have paralleled each other.
Wow.
And each has benefited from each other. So, and the Guard's got great benefits, and I try not to promote the benefits so much because to me it's more about the service, but through providing that service, you definitely get the benefits that the Guard has. But it's just incredibly important. Number one, we're here for the community when the community needs us. And you probably don't even recognize that within your neighborhood and everywhere that you live, there's guardsmen that live there. And when called by the governor, when needed, we respond, and we respond in a way that is very well respected.
Yeah.
You know, if you listen to the news and there's a snowstorm or a hurricane and you hear on the news, well, the governor's activated 200 National Guardsmen. That's 200 individuals that were taken away from their everyday normal lives and brought in to make sure that they can assist in any way that we possibly can when there's an emergency that happens. That fills me with a great level of pride.
No, that's real.
To know that and in the Army Guard, Virginia Army Guard, there's 7,000 soldiers in this state.
Wow.
That at a moment's notice are ready to do whatever they need to do for the Commonwealth. And we have a saying, it's called guard what you love. So if you love the Commonwealth and you want to provide a service to the community and you want another career that can help you in whatever else you're doing, the Guard's an incredible place to be. And I've enjoyed about 25 years in the Guard, 30-something years altogether service.
So I think, so the Army Reserve is like a national, but the Virginia Army National Guard is, either you could go overseas and serve in combat, but your initial service is to the state.
That's right.
And you work at the pleasure of the governor, essentially.
Yeah. And the reason we're able to support the state so well is because of our federal mission, because we are trained on the federal side to do the jobs that we do. We're able to take all that training and help support the Commonwealth when needed.
I think that's big. And I'm sure anybody who's listening to this, they understand that because they hear that on the radio. Yeah. The governor's activated these people. And like just a personal note, like my parents, they lived down in Claremont, and the hurricane hit and destroyed everything down there. And the Virginia Army National Guard was activated, and they were down there for, I don't know, over several months, just helping clean up. And and they did it fast too, and they were professional. Mm-hmm. And they did a lot.
Yeah, well, we like what we do, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, that's big. Well, I mean, I hope that. I mean, are you guys having a recruiting shortage or?
Well, it's always a struggle, and in these days,
because you hear about it, in the news.
Yeah, you hear a lot in the news about the Army in itself's not meeting its strength goals, the Guard's not meeting its strength goals. I think COVID had a lot to do with that, and it sort of changed some of the posture about employment. Even standard employers are having a tough time filling positions that they have right now. We're doing okay. I think we have a really great organization. We're probably a little bit off on our numbers, but it's not anything to be concerned about. There's always going to be that, some people will get in it and then they'll decide, well, this is not for me, because they don't really know until you get in there. Folks are going to continue to retire. They're going to do their 20, 30 years. They're going to retire, or they're going to go on to other things. And there always will be a recruiting pool that will need to be pulling in, because you just have that constant turnover all the time.
So what's the requirement? Pretty much like the military in itself.
Yeah, it's the same exact requirements that.
Okay. What's the oldest you can be?
I think. Yeah, don't quote me. It's either 32. I think it's somewhere around 32.
I guess I'm out.
Oh yeah, you're way out.
You're a couple of years
way out. But,
I'm trying to get in the thing, man. That's one thing I wish I had done was I was going to go in the military. I think you heard the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I had. But I mean, I certainly admire people that do it. I mean, 100%. You guys are the tops, man.
My best friend was in the Marine Reserves, but he did it for, it's a 6-year contracts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he was ready to get out, but when it came to it, he was like, man, I don't know if I can do it. Like, he was so attached to it.
He was in the Marines. He was out there. They're in. Anyway.
Yeah, so he did that for 6 years, but his mindset was the same. If they called, he was 100%.
I always try to talk to soldiers all the time about, don't think of it as a 6-year enlistment, a 4-year enlistment. Think of it as a career.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do on the civilian side, this Guard career will help in what you're doing on the civilian side, and vice versa. That's one of the strengths of the Guard, that, like, when we deploy overseas, you might have a guy who's a truck driver, but at the same time, he's a carpenter on the civilian side.
Right.
So he builds stuff and whatever.
Yep.
Or you've got a female who's a military police officer in the Guard.
Right.
But on the other side, she works in a bank or something.
Yep.
And we bring multi-talents to any mission that we're on.
Well, I saw that with the people I met that day. You had me on the base. I mean, so that was. I mean, that was. I mean, I was like, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great people there.
Well, that's what's cool about JC was he was a radio operator, but because of his military background, he got a job at now he's at Abilene.
Abilene.
Yeah, driving trucks. Mm-hmm. And then once he got a CDO and he spent time on the road, when he went on the weekends, they would have him drive the Humvees and stuff. Yeah. So it just like bounce back and forth.
Bounce out. I mean,
and now he's got a higher position at Abilene because of his background.
Yeah.
He chose that as, his career now, but it worked. It worked for him.
Yeah. All right. So you want to, so you definitely, so we're going to hold you to it. You're going to come back. Maybe we'll, I know you want to be more specific on what we were going to say, or not say, but how we were going to plan it out. But I think this worked out perfect.
Yeah, it's a great conversation.
Yeah, I don't think, that's what we like about it. It's kind of an open format. But I think we could touch on specific things. And I think I want to have Greenberg back. We'll just pick a topic and let him, roll on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could pick leadership or whatever and just kind of go from there. But I was trying to outlaw this question, but I guess people like it. The question you always ask at the end.
Oh, he's thought about it.
Hey, what do you think about the question?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question.
But I'm going to ask the questions for this.
I have an answer.
But I mean, don't say a MRE. All right.
It's my I think you see it as a goofy question. It says a lot about a person for me in my head.
I don't think it's goofy. It makes me sad. This is your last meal.
Well, what if I change it to what's your favorite meal? How about that?
Yeah,
if you're on death row, what's your last meal?
Yeah, it's just like it makes me sad, man. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so let's not be sad. Let's just say, like,
what's your favorite meal?
What's my favorite meal? It's anything that my wife cooks.
Oh man.
And that's not like a sappy sort of thing. And even as the kids, they'll tell you we should open a restaurant because mom cooks so good.
Dang.
But so if it had to be specific, it would be, like fried chicken. If she makes these breaded chicken breasts, and they're incredible. Or her chicken drumsticks that she cooks are just awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how does she fry them? Or in the pan, or is
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but so
I'm like the sous chef in the kitchen for she just tells me, like,
oh my God,
can you cut these things up for me?
I'm going to clip that and show it to Frankie. I say that all the time. I was like, I'm just your sous chef in here. I don't do anything.
Yeah. So, I think the way we just did is the way we'll do it. So you'll say you're on death row, and I'll say, what's your favorite meal? But everybody, to me.
Why you got to be on death row to have a favorite meal, though?
Well, that was his thing. Like, it's your last meal.
It's your last meal. Because usually people pull out the,
like,
damn, that really is my last one.
It's your last meal, so you got to throw down. You know what I mean? I might go big, like some baked beans and something to make me gassy. You know what I mean? So they got a real big mess to clean up, when they put me down. But I think a lot of people go for that fried chicken, man. I love fried chicken. And Shelly doesn't do it much, but when she does, man.
Yep. It's always something fried. And it's always homemade is what people do, or people say. But
yeah, I think it does say a lot about people.
Yeah.
I mean, food is admiration. Mm-hmm. Think how big Thanksgiving is, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything revolves around food or drink. And depends on why am I talking about this right this second? But there it is, man.
Because we went through dinner time.
The last dinner, man. The last supper.
Yeah.
Something you do every day. Something you have to do every day. I'm serious. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so
you have
to eat every day.
Oh yeah, before you go, so the Colonel gets his cup on the hill. We're going to try to get some more things for people, and then he also brought us this Army National Guard, which we'll keep this be part of the set from now on,
and the hoodie,
for us. Yeah. So if we're wearing this as a civilian, people can just we don't have to. I mean, you see it as like an advertisement for the Guard.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They can ask you, are you in the Guard? You say no, but I know somebody who is, and we can get them information.
Yeah, I don't want to get beat down when somebody says, hey, dude, you're not in the Guard. Can I bring one last story now? This is going to trip you out, bro. I know you got to get ready to go.
Okay. Yeah.
I want you to talk to me and my wife and all that. But so remember, and God rest his soul, because he was an American icon in P-Town anyway. So 2 parts to this.
Okay.
I don't want to be a downer, but it's kind of sad. Osmore.
Yeah, Greg Osmore.
Lieutenant Greg Osmore. Yeah. So he loved Petersburg police, man. Yeah. I mean, and he used to get on my freaking nerves, man. But the point was he had that Pathfinder pen for the CRT team, which was an Army. I guess they still have Pathfinders. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I didn't know what it. I mean, honestly, I didn't know what it was. And then I was actually at an event one time in a class for the department, and I was jogging that morning before the class, and this guy's like, "Hey, man, you're a Pathfinder?" And I was like, And he's like, I'm like, no, it's our team. He's like, what? He's like, what does that mean? Because he's like a military guy. He thought I was a Pathfinder in the military. So I was like, that guy didn't like that at all. And so we got back. I asked Braswell, what the hell is a Pathfinder? I said, we need to change the because that guy was not happy about that. Because that's it's actually a hard school.
That's right.
But anyway, so that was legit.
But Osmore was the symbol of emotional intelligence, if you think about it.
He really was, man.
He was, and it used to be.
Was that thing still recorded?
I don't know.
That's pretty cool.
That used to be irritating to me back in the day.
Yeah, but he really was, man.
Because he could show up, he'd be completely calm, right?
Yeah.
And me, young, out of control to some degree, very emotional about things all the time, and you're like, why won't he react to what's going on? These people are doing all this crazy stuff. Why won't he react? But he was always.
He never did.
He didn't.
Just cool, cool, calm, collected.
Yep. Had his little sayings.
Yeah, it's too bad. And this is what I was going to tell you. I probably shouldn't say it because I don't want to make it. But it kind of goes back, and this is the last thing, is to the thin blue line stuff. So here's a guy that gave his whole life. I mean, he did everything he could, man, for dispatch, for the PD. And he really wanted to go out with an honor. He passed away, and he wanted to go with this big police funeral. But the department at the time was just kind of, and I don't think it was during COVID. It might have been during COVID. But it was just like he didn't get the send off that he should have got, man. You know what I mean? They failed him on that, bro. That's too bad.
Yeah, I didn't make it to his funeral.
I didn't either, but I was here, but I still didn't go. But
Luckily, he did. Funny story, my wife and I actually did a change of command together. So I was battalion commander. She then took command of the exact same battalion that I was the commander of. He actually came to that ceremony.
Oh, did he really?
Was there. It was pretty awesome. Yeah.
I bet he was super proud.
Yeah, he was.
Wow.
He never thought I would make it to where I'm at, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the kind of guy he was, man. And he deserved a much better send-off than he got, man. That's too bad. But the department, they let him down. But anyway, I don't end it with a bummer. But the fact that you told me that, I mean, that's something he would do. Yeah. Now, he probably wouldn't have done that for me because we butted heads a lot. But I'm glad he did that for you. But I wasn't part of the clique neither, bro.
Me either.
All right.
Well, this will be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you can watch it on YouTube. And I think we'll have a part 2 coming pretty soon.
I'd be honored. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it was great. Love spending time with you guys.
Man, it means a lot to me, brother. No shit.
Yeah,
I mean, for real.
And I'll consider the mustache.
Yeah. All right, that's it, man. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to On the Hill. Like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. See ya.